I'm Paulina Leiser, producer of Focus Today. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to check our other videos at theDove.us.
Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and what a delight to have back with us today Jay Sekulow. He's the Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, ACLJ. You see him all over the place, his television show, his radio show. You see him as a commentator on many of the major networks. And we are glad to have him back as on the Dove Network here today to talk about a couple of things. First of all, he's updated his book on ISIS, The Rise of ISIS, A Threat We Can't Ignore. You can see that book there on the screen. Let me encourage you to get this. It's a real resource. Check it out at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And his latest book, Undemocratic, How Unelected, Unaccountable Bureaucrats Are Stealing Your Liberty and Freedom. Two great resources. And we only have them for a few moments today, so I want to get into this right away. Jay, first of all, thank you to you and your team for what you all are doing and your accepting the call to be a warrior in these issues. Thank you, my friend. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Perry. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. Hey, first of all, before we get into your books real quick, the Supreme Court decision of the same-sex marriage. Now, Is there any possibility of pushing back on this because of two justices who probably shouldn't have given an opinion?
Well, I think this is a fait accompli at this point. The Supreme Court decision is the law of the land. There is going to be now significant religious freedom issues. That's what we're focusing on. I think this idea the recusal of justices is completely discretionary with that justice. So there's not a proceeding whereby we can make a motion to recuse at a court, and the judge could deny it, and then you could take it up on appeal. Well, there's no appeal here, so it's completely discretionary with the judges or the justices in this particular case. So look, I think we need to deal with the fact that this is the decision. This is the law, and how we're going to deal with that law now that it's being enforced. Yeah, I can't help but think you're full throttle on trying to protect religious freedoms as a result of this, and I know you're very concerned about it. First of all, your rise of ISIS. You've updated this book. What are you updating here? Well, we drew the connect. We got a little flat, and the book did great. We were #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list, and hundreds of thousands of copies have been sold. We got some flack from some left-wing groups on this analysis that we drew between Hamas and ISIS, and also incorporating Turkey. So we really dealt with that dissent, if you will, head on. And we doubled down, and we drew the analogy again, and we actually added 4 more chapters. One chapter deals with Turkey, which has become one of the largest funnels for ISIS. That's the reason why, by the way, when Turkish soldiers were captured by ISIS, they were let go. Now, how often do you hear of ISIS letting anyone go? Well, they let the Turkish soldiers go, and the sense is among the intelligence community and those of us that deal significantly in the Middle East that they let them go for one reason only, is that Turkey is a funnel for ISIS. Now, interestingly, in Turkey, Erdogan, the president, had a stinging rebuke at the polls. So the Islamist juggernaut of Turkey may, in fact, be wavering a bit. So we're watching over the next 60 days. We've got one of our fellows for our Oxford Center for the Study of Law and Public Policy is an expert on Turkey, and he's writing more on this. So, look, we wrote the book. We expanded the book as new information became available, including techniques and strategies that ISIS is using. We just saw the horrific situation in Chattanooga. That is an ISIS. I don't know if there's a direct connect between the shooter here, the terrorist, the jihadist, and ISIS, but this is an ISIS-type inspired event. And this is what they're encouraging now. They're not saying you got to wait for a signal from us. They're saying when you have an opportunity, take it. Okay. Let me encourage folks to get the book. It's been updated, The Rise of ISIS, A Threat We Can't Afford, put out by Howard. And you can get more information on Jay and his organization and all of his videos at ShymanSchuster.com. Jay, how big of a threat is it from your perspective? Huge. I think what we just saw happen just last week is unfortunately going to become much more commonplace. The jihadists, you got to recognize this, ISIS is different than Al-Qaeda. In the region, ISIS operates much more like Hamas, much more like an army. They have territory, they have currency, they have governance, so they are much more like a conquering army. What they're doing in the West in the rest of the world is the president keeps calling lone wolves, but they're not lone wolves. And maybe one person doing the perpetrating the terrorism attack. But the fact is they're inspired or led by or directed by groups like ISIS and Boko Haram if you're in Africa. These groups are doing the same kind of tactic. And this tactic is to take out as many Americans and high-profile targets. For instance, in this particular case, they shot and killed 5 members of our armed forces, 4 Marines, one of the sailors in the Navy. And those are brothers and sons and husbands that are dead. And our administration still won't call it terrorism. They call it a tragic shooting in Chattanooga. The flags were not lowered to half staff. Yeah.
Don't get me going. All right.
Yeah.
Let me come to your new book, Undemocratic, because we only have you for a few moments. Thank you for writing this book. Again, another great resource. And this actually plays into what we just talked about with the Supreme Court. We're in uncharted waters. We're in a lawless state in America, right?
Yeah, lawless in the sense that the agencies are doing whatever they want, and not lawless in the state that they're passing more laws and regulations than we could ever have imagined. The fact is more regulations are passed by the agencies than are passed by the United States Congress. I'm going to be testifying next week on Capitol Hill on the situation with the IRS, again, with the targeting of conservative and pro-life groups. I mean, look at this scandal. Could you imagine? I mean, emails evaporating, collusion between the Department of Justice and the IRS, and not one person has been held accountable. And in our book, Undemocratic, we talk about that these unelected, unaccountable bureaucracies are basically stealing our freedoms and liberties. And, and the American people go on not recognizing, and at least not in large part, that our entire form of government is changing on us. So the most powerful agencies in Washington are not the Supreme Court across the street from my office or the White House where the president resides, which is just a 5-minute cab ride down the road, or even the United States Capitol, which is a block away. It's 4 blocks off of Constitution Avenue. It's a 1.5 miles from Pennsylvania Avenue. It's these agencies, and these agencies are out of control. There's no accountability, whether it's the VA, the IRS, the National Labor Relations Board, whatever it might be. There's no accountability. No one is held responsible. Individuals get a job, and it's like they have a job for life, regardless of merit.
Let me ask you this, Jay. Isn't it the job of the Congress to oversee these agencies? Isn't it the job of the Congress to put boundaries around these agencies? And not what you're saying is that the agencies are almost acting like the president. They're doing their own executive orders and doing their own thing, and Congress is sitting back and letting it happen.
Well, you have this unique situation historically, and that is you have the entrenched bureaucracy, which is decidedly left, with a White House that is decidedly left. So they are working in tandem. And Congress, this is what I call it's 3 R's. You've got to resist when the government is doing something wrong. We saw that in the IRS cases. We filed massive federal lawsuits. You have to restore a constitutional framework, and also included before the restoration of the constitutional frameworks, you got to reform the laws. For instance, one of the things we propose is not only that we should have merit review for those that are serving in our government, so that if they don't do a good job, they get fired. We also propose that a regulation that impacts the economy by more than $10 million has to be signed off by Congress. That would be a drastic change in the way it's worked now. And I think that would really go a long way in curtailing what has become a bureaucratic state.
And your third one, resist, restore, and
and then you've got to reclaim the Constitution. I mean, we're not making this stuff up. What we're saying is let's return to constitutional principles. Restore the republic, basically. And the republic can be restored. But if you don't reform the agencies first, you're never going to get to the last thing. Once you've reformed and restored a constitutional framework, a lot of things are going to change because they automatically have to. So that's basically the outline here.
Again, to our viewers and listeners, Undemocratic is the book, again, put out by Howard Publications. Get a copy of it by Jay Sekulow. Jay, I know you got to go, but you talk about IRS, you talk about the VA, you talk about the Department of Justice. Can I put one on your radar screen? Can I put the FCC on your radar screen?
Sure.
They are going after us broadcasters and our licenses. They're going after us LPTV operators, and any channel above 21 is subject to be just taken away without restitution.
Yeah. Well, look, the FCC, they've been trying to silence conservative and Christian voices for, 4 decades. We beat them down every time, but I know the low-power television situation is very difficult. I also will tell you I'm concerned about broadcasts that are going on over the internet, that this administration is bent on controlling the content on the internet. And I think it does not bode well for freedom if we don't take action. So let me assure you, Perry, the FCC is front and center on the ACLJ's radar screen.
If anything I can do to help you on that, because we are a holder of a lot of licenses, and man, I'd be glad to help you testify on that one. Thank you, buddy. You're a warrior. Thanks for your writing and your endeavors. Best to you and your son and your whole staff. You're in our prayers.
Thank you, Perry. Appreciate it. Thank you.
God bless. All right, Jay Sekulow. We'll be right back.